Hi, welcome to part 2 of my September wrap-up video. I'm Becca, this is Becca's Bookshelves, let's crack on. Right, just to recap on the statistics, what I mentioned in part 1. I'm going to have to read these because I still haven't learned them. Okay, 4 books were 5 stars, 6 books were 4 stars, 5 books were 3 stars, 0 books were 2 stars, and 3 books were 1 star. And before I get into this video, I've got to apologise for the low energy levels in the last one and for me sounding a bit rough and looking a little puffy today. I've really been dying of the worst head cold ever. I still sound awful. And you could probably tell I've just checked over my last video, and yeah, some of the editing is not quite right. I was just trying to get through it as fast as I could. I felt horrible, but anyway, let's hope today's goes a little better. I'm really desperately hoping it does. I want to tell you about a book before I forget, because I always forget to tell you about these types of books, and they are the ones that I don't actually finish in that month. And so on my September TBR was a book called The Living Dead by George Romero and Daniel Kraus. This, if you watch that video, you'll remember, this was the one that I was super excited to read. Like, Romero is, you know, dubbed to be the king of zombies, and I was just like, yep, I love Zombie, let's get it on. Unfortunately, I have struggled and managed to get to roughly 44%. I think it's round about that mark. And I'm just finding it very like overwritten, as if it really needs a good editor to go through and cut some bits out. It just feels, I mean, I don't know if this is correct, because I haven't read any of Romero's other books that he wrote himself and published whilst he was still alive. But to me, in that kind of viewpoint, I would say that every bit that he wrote was kept, that somebody didn't feel right to go back through and edit bits out. I don't know if that's right, but that's how it feels when you're reading it. And it just, it takes away from the plot. I mean, I know some people love really character-driven stories, but for me, Zompok is about the action and, you know, the survivors and the decisions they make and the consequences and what's actually happening at the time. What I don't need to know is every single part of somebody's life up until that point. And I'll give you an example. There's a naval officer as one of the characters. We see, because the book kind of goes from different people's viewpoints around the world who are doing different jobs, etc. And so this naval officer is on a ship, and the Zompok, you know, starts happening. By the end of reading about this person, I could tell you every single military ship he has sailed on during his career. I could tell you about every single person on that ship and what he thinks about them and what he thinks they think about him. And I could tell you about his family back home and all their lives. And it was just like, oh, it was just so distracting. Like, nothing is happening, or there's bits happening, but the bits that are happening probably take up 5% of this first 44. The rest of it is flowery. It's just, I just felt like it wasn't needed, unfortunately. So this is an arc, and I do really need to get to finish it and review it. I feel like I should try and finish arcs, so I'm really reluctant to just DNF it properly. What I think I'm going to do is like a soft DNF, as in, I'm going to say I'll put it down for now and hopefully I'll pick it back up soon and try and get back into it. It's just at the moment, every moment that I was reading it, it was like my brain was going, oh, you could be reading this other book and it could be fantastic, instead of forcing yourself to read this. And so we might as well stay on this, you know, low level as it goes, and I'll tell you about the remaining 1-star book that I read in September. and that is The Subjects by Sarah Hopkins. Now, this was the book where teen criminals are offered the chance in court to avoid going to some kind of juvenile prison, and instead they go to this special school. What they don't know is that this special school is actually a research facility, and even we as readers, until about 90% in, don't know what the hell is going on in this school. We don't know what's being researched or why. Neither do the kids in the story. Reading the synopsis, it gave me really like The Institute by Stephen King vibes, and I really enjoyed that book. So I thought this was going to be similar. You know, like these kids go to this weird research facility, they're experimented on, that kind of thing. And it wasn't, not at all. It was just, I don't know, I don't even know what to say. It was just boring. It was so boring, that's all I can say. It was really boring. It's told from the perspective of the protagonist, Daniel. However, he is an adult and he's telling the story as he remembers it. None of the characters are particularly likeable, and not because they're offenders or anything like that, just because they're all extremely boring people, and there's no way at all to relate to them. There's no emotion in the book. It's just got a very empty, clinical feel about the whole book. And not in Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, that felt a little clinical, but that felt like it was supposed to be to enhance the experience of the story. This just felt oddly written. Yeah, it was just very, very difficult to connect with any part of the book at all. Occasionally there would be like these hints in the story that something big is going to happen, that there's going to be like a big event and it'll change things, and you kind of, you wonder what's going to happen, and there's a little bit of a build and then it just disappears completely. And then eventually when this big thing happens, it's something that you've seen coming for the last 6 chapters. You know it's going to happen. It's not actually that big as such, and it's just a really anticlimactic moment. And that's like the peak of the book. It was just, oh, it was just not good at all. And then just to make things worse, there were huge chunks of scientific research explanations of brainwaves and physiology and things like that. And normally I'm quite good with science, but it was even way above my head. And I was just thinking, how are readers supposed to get stuck into this story and connect with characters when we don't even know what the hell's going on or who's doing what? It was just a mess, this book. Next up is The Shift by Teresa Brown. This is a nursing memoir. As the title suggests, it covers one shift. It's the story of the 12-hour shift, the 4 patients' lives that she is a part of during those 12 hours. And I've spoken about this book in good detail on my 2 books 1 stone tag video that I did. I'll link it either up here somewhere or down below. I'm not going to go into it again because I've already spoken about it, but yeah, that was really great. I do love a good medical memoir, and I ended up rating that one 4 stars, I think. Yep, 4 stars. Now let me tell you about The Last One by Alexandra Oliver. This was the book that sounded a little bit like The Hunger Games, but a dystopian, horror, creepy version of The Hunger Games. Actually, The Hunger Games was already dystopian, but you know what I mean. It was like a zombie, it sounded a bit like a zombie or a virus outbreak type book mixed with The Hunger Games. So we have this lady who is called Zoo within the book. It turns out that's not her name. Basically, all the competitors in the game, they get like this kind of nickname based on their previous careers or skills or something. So there's like a guy who's some kind of wildlife tracking expert type, and he gets called Tracker. And Zoo is named Zoo because she deals with, she's in like some kind of conservation / wildlife project normally when she's working, so she's called Zoo. And there's other people, there's like Pilot, but you can't guess what his job is, and Doctor, even more cryptic. But yeah, so there's some great characters, and these characters all kind of volunteer to be in this kind of TV game show, like a reality show, and they just have to be the last survivor, as in the others either, and it doesn't specifically say they have to be killed by each other, but all the tasks they're going through and the survival stuff, and you know, whether they have accidents, things like that. So whether people drop out or get killed, they just have to be the last person to still be in the competition to win the prize. And so the game or contest, whatever you want to call it, it begins. The people go into this like wilderness reserve kind of type area that it's supposed to all take place in. Whilst they're in there, they are completely cut off from the outside world. Like, they can't have any contact with anybody. Unfortunately, as they go in, this kind of virus starts sweeping through the world, basically, and so they don't know that this is happening. And initially it's like it's obviously not, it doesn't hit everywhere at the exact same time, and it doesn't just completely like kill everybody off at the exact same time. So the host of the game show or the contest, whatever, he keeps going in for the first few days doing the actual program with the cameraman, and then they notice certain members of the crew are getting a bit sick and they don't know why, and then replacements come, and then eventually that just dies out, and the contestants are just left in this wilderness area alone. But they don't actually realise that that's happened. They think it's part of the contest, that they get left and they have to survive and figure out what the next clue is for the next task. Yeah, it was a really great book. I gave this 4 stars. I really did enjoy it, but something wasn't quite 5 stars for me, and I don't know what, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. And Connor from Connor's Library Corner has said that he'd love to read this next, so this is going in the post to him tomorrow. Connor, if you're watching, it'll be with you soon. Hope you enjoy it, I really do. It's time for a 5 star, and this one is Southern Bred and Dead by Angie Fox. This is book 9, I think, of the Southern Ghost Hunter series. I've read and reviewed a couple of these previously. I'd already started reading them, bizarrely, off my own, like, you know, like, whatever you want to call it, like they were arcs. I just bought them on Kindle. Yeah, I love this series. It's a cozy mystery series. Verity is the main character. She lives in a haunted house type. Well, it's haunted because there's a ghost, a spirit who's trapped there, but she can see him, he can see her. They, you know, team up to solve mysteries. So yeah, it's really fun and it's really light-hearted, and I just love this series. As long as it keeps being written, I'll keep reading it. And it's just one of those, like, when you've read some heavy topics, or you know, your brain is full of gore from a violent book, this is just such a fantastic palate cleanser. So fun, so cute, and it's got a little bit of a rom-com type twist to it, but not too much, because then that would be like bleh. But yeah, I really love this series. And I read Little Lovely Things by Maureen Joyce Connolly. This I thought this was a thriller, and I actually so did the rest of my kind of online book club friends. We kind of choose a couple of books each month between us, and we all kind of buddy read them, and then luckily this author Maureen agreed to do an online chat with us, like a Zoom meeting, and I enjoyed it, but I don't think I would have picked this up normally. It's not a book I would have gone for. Like I said, we all sort of thought it was a thriller when we first chose it, and what happens is there's a lady who, she is unwell, and she's got 2 young daughters. I think they're around about 5 and 3, they're around about them ages, they're young anyway, and she gets them in the car and she's driving to the hospital to get some treatment. However, partway there she has to pull over, stop, get out the car. She's trying to get into the bathroom at this service station, and you know, like try and like, I think she was trying to put water on her face because she felt so faint, and then she passes out. When she comes to, she goes back to the car and the children have gone, the girls have gone, and you know, they've not gone with somebody to be looked after, they've actually been kidnapped. And so it's about that then, about these girls being kidnapped and what happens after that. And it's, to me, that sounded like this really great thriller, like, oh my god, what's happened, where are these kids, what's going on? But it isn't, because like right from the beginning we know who's kidnapped them, we know why, and then the whole way through the book it alternates between the mother's point of view, the point of view of this guy who's like helping to find the girls, the point of view of the person who's kidnapped the girls, and then the point of view of the older girl. So we know exactly what is going on the whole way through the book. So even though it was like a bit interesting, I was thinking, well, this is a crap thriller because I already know what's happened and why, and you know, just waiting for it to all come to an end really. And there was no like build up to a big event, so I was like, I don't get it, like this is terrible thriller really. But when we had a chat with the author, she actually said it's not a thriller. For some reason people seem to put it in the thriller genre, and it's not actually a thriller. She said she would say it's more literary fiction, because she agrees there's no build up, there's no whodunit type stuff, there's no thrilling aspect to it because you know exactly what's going on. So yeah, and I think that this wasn't a book for me, and even though I enjoyed it, I didn't love it, and I would not have picked this up normally. If I'd have known going in it was written as it was, and it's not bad writing, it's just not my personal choice that I like to read, but if I'd have known that's how it was and that it was more literary fiction, I wouldn't have chosen that book at all. And I think my expectations of it being a thriller meant that I was then very disappointed in the book, but that was because of my expectations, not because the book was bad, if that makes sense. Anyway, the author was absolutely lovely. She chatted to us for ages. She's really nice. And if that's your type of book, please read it, because it actually was an interesting story. Lots of unique aspects to it that I've not heard of before. It's just, I thought it was a thriller and it wasn't. So there we go. I gave that one 3 stars. And sticking with our book club picks, I also read Well Met by Jen DeLuca. This is another book that I would never in a million years have picked up. However, if you see my October TBR video with the weird random crap that they've suggested for this month, then I probably should not be complaining about what they chose for last month. Because, yeah. So this is a rom-com, which is not my usual type of thing. We follow a woman called Emily who is looking after her sister after she's been in a car accident, and then also being like a kind of carer / guardian for her teenage niece. Her teenage niece wants to get involved with the town's Renaissance festival or medieval festival, I'm not sure what it's called. And so Emily ends up getting involved as well because the girl is underage and she can't go alone, blah blah blah. And it's just like the obvious, you know, there's obviously a hot guy who's a bit of an arse and like, you know, has got his walls up, and she falls for him even though he's, you know, she thinks she shouldn't, and then it turns out he's actually all soft and cute on the inside. He's just got his walls up because he's been hurt in the past, and then they fall in love and it's all wonderful, la la la, and that's it. So I gave it 3 stars, and that is nothing to do with the book. Again, it's to do with me. It's not my type of thing. I probably shouldn't keep reading things that I don't want to read, because then I'm just rating them badly, and it's nothing to do with the book. But yeah, so I did. I listened to it. It was alright. Wasn't horrendous. It was very sickly for me. Bit too much romance. There we go. My Darling by Amanda Robson. This was a NetGalley audio book. And it's a thriller. It's a domestic thriller. I'm trying to think where to start with this, because it is right from the beginning. It's like a very jumpy type of book, going from like one person's perspective to another. And So basically, there's a couple, a husband and wife, who are already living this one street, and then this other couple come along and they move in on the street. And then there's like this really weird sort of faux friendship type thing going on between the two couples, even though right at the very beginning, the woman in one couple immediately doesn't trust the woman of the other couple and thinks her husband is going to have an affair with her. So it's like this really bizarre kind of friendship / relationship. And then that husband then does start acting a bit odd, and you think, is there any truth behind this? It's like everybody is an unreliable narrator. Like the whole of the book is just unreliable. And it's just constantly switching between perspectives, and you never quite know who to trust. You never know who's like telling the truth of what's happening, even when you get to the end. And then it just gets crazier and crazier through the book, because as one woman is trying to, you know, get the up on the other woman and prove that this affair is happening, that woman is then trying to beat the other woman by doing something even crazier and setting her up to get in trouble with the police for something. And it's just like, oh my god, it's like they're like this all the time, trying to fight to be, you know, the top of the pyramid. And it's just really crazy. I did enjoy it though. Like, I can't fully, like there's no like, this is what happened, because it was just like, whoa. But yeah, it was really, really good. I did not see the twists at the end coming at all, in the slightest. It was just crazy. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. So I would recommend it to people who like that kind of domestic suspense, thriller, a bit psychological. I don't know, it's a bit of everything really. It was just crazy, but quite interesting just to see where this story went. I can't remember if I said this, but I gave that one 4 stars. Right, back to the book club picks. This next book is called Flirtasaurus. Yes, I did just say that. Flirtasaurus by Erin Mallon. Again, this is like a rom-com type book. However, I quite enjoyed this. It was quite unique. What got me hooked initially is that the main character is a paleontologist, and I am all for the dinosaurs. I absolutely love dinosaurs. So I was like, oh yeah, let's get in like dinosaurs and science, and yeah, this is going to be really fun. And it was. There just wasn't as much dinosaurs as I was expecting. I don't know why I thought it to be all about dinosaurs. Obviously it's a rom-com, but yeah, it was quite fun. It was unique. It was set in like a natural history museum, so that was like a unique setting that I've never heard of before. Both you know, the main characters in like the romance type part, they were both quite quirky and socially awkward and a bit unusual, and that just made it quite interesting as well. And it was just a fun book. Crazy stuff happens, like really crazy. You know, it was like he goes to meet her parents for the first time, and the parents are just talking about sex and religion, like the whole like the whole way through dinner. And it's not just like, oh, you can't have sex. It was like the opposite, and it was going into detail, like, oh, a mum likes this when I do this, and it's like, oh no, you could just cringe for the characters. But yeah, it was just fun. And actually, even though I would never in a million years have picked that up myself, I ended up rating it 4 stars. Shocked. Oh, but yeah, I did enjoy it, and I probably will. There's like, I think the second one is called Love Bug possibly, and that is going to follow, I don't know what the word is for people who deal with bugs. I can't think what it's called, but it's going to be a character who is a bug person. Not a person who's a bug. I don't know. There's a word for it. Can't think of it. Insect person. I don't know. But yeah, so I think when that comes out, I'll probably read that one as well, because yeah, I did find it quite fun, and it's just a bit of a change, isn't it, from reading dark, gruesome stuff all the time. And I'm going to finish off on a high note. Right, Let Me Go by Casey Watson. 5 stars. I knew this was 5 stars before I even read it. Just from looking at the author and the title, it's 5 stars. Because this is one of those foster care memoirs. I've read Casey Watson's memoirs before. Absolutely love them. They're up there with the best. You can see here that I do read quite a few of these books. In fact, you probably can't see because I've put the book image there somewhere. But yeah, I read a lot of Kathy Glass, Casey Watson, Maggie Hartley, people like that. So I knew I was going to enjoy this one. They're always fantastic. I'm not going to tell you anything about this because every single one of them is unique because it focuses on a different foster child with obviously a different set of issues, circumstances, outcomes, everything. So I'm not going to tell you really about the book itself. I'm just going to say, if you enjoy the foster care memoirs, and yes, they're a little difficult to read at parts, but I can honestly say every one that I have read has got a good outcome in the end, and it does make you feel some hope that there's people out there that are looking after these children and helping them, you know, get a better life. So if you like that kind of book and you've never tried Casey Watson before, then definitely try them. They don't have to be read in any order. Just pick any of them up. Really, really great. Get on with it. Right, and that is hopefully every single book that I read in September. So thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all later with my next video. Bye.